What will Issaquah's commercial core look like in the next 30 years? That's what the city is addressing with a new roadmap for our future called the Central Issaquah Plan. This plan will guide the long-term evolution of our commercial core from a collection of strip malls, parking lots, and office buildings into a more sustainable urban area that will meet our community's needs for environmental protection, jobs, housing, and rapid transit. Along with our neighboring communities, Issaquah is mandated to accept new growth in the coming decades.
We like the way Issaquah is now. We are required to change under the Growth Management Act, regardless. And what we have found in the past is that if we don't plan for change, change happens anyway, and it often isn't shaped by what the community wants. So we really want something that the community has a say in and shapes. We think that that's a better way to go.
Knowing that we must accommodate more growth in Issaquah, the next question is, how?
Issaquah's boomed 3 times its size or something like that over the last 10 years. And more people are going to continue to move here. And Issaquah over the last 10 years or 20 years has largely grown by expanding outward. With the Highlands and the Talus development, it sort of went out a little bit, but now it's reached the boundaries of how it can go out. Because right beyond those boundaries, we have the public lands on Tiger Mountain and Squawk Mountain and so on. So now, in order to grow, the city's going to have to go up. And that's a good thing, because we're either going to go up in downtown Issaquah, or we're going to end up going up Tiger Mountain, which is not what we want to do. And so, in doing that, though, it's how you do it. And Issaquah is just a great example of you don't want to have an urban jungle, a concrete jungle. You want to do it in a way that people still feel completely safe and excited to live there, and you want it to be highly walkable. You still want to have the salmon runs, but you're going to pack more people, more business into the same acreage. And it can be done well, and the city is on a path to do that. But we want to work with the city of Issaquah and all the other cities to figure out how to do that right and do that best. Issaquah in some ways is going to be a leader for the other cities in this area and model certain things that we can show the other cities.
Central Issaquah is 1,100 acres of the city's commercial core, excluding Front Street, that surround Interstate 90. While Issaquah is working on the plan now, implementation won't happen overnight.
This is really a plan that's looking out 20 to 30 to 40 years in the future. But the market will decide at some point in time that it's more profitable to redevelop the existing suburban strip malls with mixed-use development and housing and small-scale urban centers than it is to maintain the existing use. And when that time comes, the city wants to be prepared to make sure that development occurs on our terms, consistent with our plans and guidelines and development standards, so we're developing the kind of community that we would all like to live in.
Funding for the Central Issaquah Plan will be a 30-year process and will come from a variety of sources.
Implementation of the plan will require investment from the public sector as well as the private sector. The private sector contributions will come through development impact fees and other mitigations that are associated and required for specific redevelopment within the planning area. Public infrastructure improvements will come from the general fund, grants, and state and federal funding sources that we're successful in obtaining.
The Central Issaquah area includes about 90% of the city's commercially zoned land, as well as 9 of our top 10 employers. With this plan comes great opportunity for our businesses, such as Costco, which has its international headquarters located here in Issaquah. The company brings many jobs to town, along with employees who also live and shop here.
Costco encouraged me to be part of this process because Costco is looking towards its future. And Costco plans to grow and continue to grow. We, as a company, want to stay in Issaquah and grow. Basically, with the current zoning and the master site plan that is in place on the Pickering area, we are maxed out. We can't grow anymore in terms of adding buildings, bringing more employees in gets more and more difficult. we always envisioned it where, the idea being if people could live on the valley floor, maybe their business or the company that they work for was located nearby, maybe they would walk or ride their bicycle most days, maybe there would be bus service, or hopefully someday light rail might come out here. So if they worked in Bellevue or they worked in Seattle, they would have other options to consider.
The Central Issaquah Plan doesn't consider just large corporations, but the small startups too.
Making the land use work for people to site bigger office buildings in town. And that's clearly an important part of what we would like to get out of the Central Issaquah Plan process. But the other opportunity is for the smaller businesses and creating incubator space for people to start up businesses. And I think what we're looking at is to break down some of the existing zoning barriers that would keep those things from happening. So the Central Issaquah Plan I could see as not only facilitating new corporate employers, but also the small business person as well.
A balance of jobs and housing inside the Central Issaquah area will help reduce reliance on motorized vehicles, and new rapid transit options are also possible.
One of the goals of the Central Issaquah Plan is to really add the opportunity for housing on the valley floor. And what that would do would be to create workforce housing that would make Issaquah potentially a stronger job market for certain employers. Because employers, they actually do consider both quality of life and what their distance of employee commute when they decide to site their businesses. So by having and promoting housing on the valley floor, we're actually doing well to strengthen our business environment. And this would be an opportunity for people, if you really wanted to shed your reliance on the automobile and basically live in a walkable area where you could walk to your services, maybe even walk to your job, that this would be a way for you to do that.
The process to create this plan all started years ago with several community meetings. Since then, a citizen task force, along with other volunteer groups, have spent thousands of hours shaping this vision.
I have gotten a little perturbed by comments I've seen of people saying, there's no public involvement. Well, in fact, there was a great deal of public involvement. A whole committee of people who were the planners behind this. That was not city officials. There were city staff who facilitated along with consultants, but it was the citizens of the city who came up with this vision and framework. Anybody could have come to those planning meetings. People came to earlier open houses where they had an opportunity to lay out their vision for Issaquah. All of that public input is what came together to create this plan.
A key portion of the plan focuses on how Issaquah will protect its beloved green space and forested areas.
Well, the vision for 30 years from now is probably the same vision that drew me here in 1984, dating myself, when I asked someone in Renton, if you could live anywhere, where would you live? And they said Issaquah. And I came out here and I saw the surrounding green hills, and I knew this is where I needed to be. Guess what? In 30 years, those surrounding green hills will still be here. And the question then becomes, what do you do inside of those green hills? I'm a believer that you can create a more vibrant, active, livable Issaquah that also has better environmental qualities for salmon and everything else, even as we grow.
To learn more about the Central Issaquah Plan process, go to www.ci.issaquah.wa.us/Central Issaquah.